Welcome to the Awakened Healer podcast. I'm your host, Mary Beth Vanderlinden. I'm an ordained Christian minister, international intuitive healer, healer trainer, speaker, and retreat facilitator. On the Awakened Healer podcast, myself and a wide variety of fascinating guests will share our gifts and divine experiences. I won't shy away from diving deep and asking big questions during these conversations. In turn, we will open up and share our deepest thoughts on spirituality, angels, intuitive development, crystals, healing of all kinds, and how bridging ancient wisdom with modern science can bring you to a deep and profound healing in every area of your life. Welcome to another episode of Awakened Healer. Today, our topic is the grief cure. I know this past year, things have really ramped up with both people and pets deciding to leave and transition. And so this is perfect timing. This is a topic that everyone has a lot of interest in. There's just a lot of grief being held in the consciousness of the planet now. And so for today, we'll be talking about all things grief, how to let go of that. And so I have as my guest today, Alyson Franz. And she helps people who feel held back by trauma and grief completely break free so they can flourish and thrive in every area of their lives. Her work is really based on what she has learned on her own journey of transformation. She's really passionate about helping people let go of their barriers and step into their power and live a life that's full and really live to their full potential. So welcome, Alyson. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Hi, Mary Beth. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let me ask you this. How did you get so involved and so inspired, if you will, by the grief that people hold, and how did you learn to work with that and help them?
Well, the way I got into it was really on my own journey because I was dealing with some very devastating grief myself. You know, I had done some work with trauma and I'd been a psychotherapist previously before I got into this more transformational work. And really the way I got into it was my own story. And I was just a complete emotional mess after my father died when I was 29. And I just decided that I really had to heal. There had to be a way because I just couldn't go through life in the state that I was in.
How did you begin helping yourself? What did you find really helped you heal that trauma and grief?
Well, it really took me quite a while because, you know, experts and people who worked with grief were pretty much just advising to cope with your feelings. And I knew that coping with my feelings wasn't going to work.
Right.
So I figured out that there must be a way to heal. And I think just deep down in my heart, I just felt there has to be a solution. So I went on a healing journey. You know, I think I tried psychotherapy. I even did EMDR for anyone who's familiar with EMDR. It's considered sort of a more thorough therapy because it includes bilateral brain stimulation, which helps you to process, you know, emotions and traumas that are deeper. However, that didn't work at all.
Oh. Well, we can check that off of our list.
Yeah. So not saying it'll never work for anybody, but I mean, it just did not work. When you're facing a really big trauma like that, it's just not enough. And so I just basically hoped with my heart that the solution would come. And sure enough, it took about a year and a half after my father passed, and I got a flyer in the mail. And I just had a really strong gut feeling like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. And it was a flyer from Henry Grayson, who would become my mentor.
Oh.
Yeah. And the flyer said revolutionary healing techniques, energy psychology, learn to heal things that you never thought you could heal from, things like that is what it said on the flyer.
So
And I
that
was
really
just,
intrigued you?
I mean, it felt magical. It felt magical reading the flyer. And that's when I just knew, I was like, I have to get to this training.
So in the training, like what did you experience? Like just through that training, like was it a few hours? Was it days? Was it months? How long of a training was this?
Well, it was a day and a half training. And I remember meeting Henry, and Henry's just so spiritual. He's a very big student of the Course in Miracles. And I didn't even know what that was at the time. And everything he was saying just really resonated with me deep, deep down.
Mhm.
However, it was so different from anything I'd ever been taught before.
Okay.
And at the end of the training, I really felt like I needed more, and a lot of people felt like they wanted to do more with him. So he promised to come back, because he's out of New York City and this training was in Boston. And he promised to come back in the fall. This was in the spring,
Uh-huh.
and do another training. So I went to a second training, and during the second training, I experienced a healing that was so profound. I had struggled with insomnia after losing my dad for almost 2 years.
Okay.
And after this training and the healing that I experienced from this training, I had my first full night of sleep in like 2 years.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that was, to me, just a very big signal, like, yes, this is it.
So
you
the,
know,
the the healing that he teaches, is it a form of energy healing or
he teaches synergetic therapy, which is a form of energy psychology,
okay?
comprehensive energy
Psychology.
psychology.
Okay, that's interesting. So what do you think the biggest myth about grief would be?
I think just that you can't heal from it. It really gets to me that there's a lot of professionals saying, well, there's nothing you can do. You can try medication or traditional therapy or whatever. And that is just the farthest thing from the truth, because we're energetic beings, and grief, just like any emotion, is energetic in origin. So you just need to once you find those root causes of the imbalance that's going on as a result of the grief, you start healing.
Okay, because I myself have experienced like grief. Like I've lost grandparents and great grandparents and, a friend and everything. But a year ago, my son died, and I was absolutely devastated. And I still feel that grief. And I've been an energy worker since I was, if you call it that. I mean, to me, it's divine in everything. And it was Jesus showed up when I was actually laying dead in the street and breathed into me. And I've had such a relationship with him ever since. And guides and angels and Jesus have led me through. I've had 19 death or near death experience, like traumatic brain injuries and broken bones and collapsed lungs and just all these different things, and they've always come and showed me how to heal them either instantly or really quickly. But the grief over my son is just to the depths of my being. And so I, along with everyone else, and even after doing healing, like all these decades, I'm like, okay, how do get over the death of a child or of a parent or and everything. So I'm very curious, like, you know, what that process is, or how do people go about getting a hold of you? And actually, you wrote a book.
I did.
And so why don't you talk to us about that? We should all probably to buy the book, and that would probably really help us.
Sure. So the thing about grief is that there are a lot of layers to it. And so that's why, it's not as simple as, like one treatment
Right.
or, one, issue to just, just kind of go, bzz, it's healed.
And
Um,
I find that all the time. Clients are like, they think they're gonna have one session. I'm like, "Look, it took decades and decades to get to where you are." Or if it involves past lives, it could involve, 10 past lives, 20, 100 past lives, and you can't just wave a magic wand and poof, everything's better. Like you're saying, you work on those layers.
Yeah. And, when you use a really powerful healing modality like comprehensive energy psychology that really addresses, um, the deep, deep roots of all those aspects, you definitely make progress way faster than you would with, I think, any other modality, because I tried other things before
Mhm.
this and nothing else worked. And I actually do more than comprehensive energy psychology. I have some other things that I add to it that make it even more powerful. But, you know, so for instance, when what energy psychology addresses, it addresses the unconscious pieces, right? Because consciously we know we're grieving, but
Right.
there's a whole lot wrapped up in there unconsciously that we don't even realize. So first we need to go into the unconscious and figure out what is wrapped up in this grief. And then we need to, see if there's any barriers that might be standing in our way from completely letting this go. I work with a lot of people who have said, I tried such and such and it worked, but then this came back. This problem came back, be it grief, trauma, or depression, what have you. And what happens is sometimes when we experience something that's really traumatic or difficult, and especially if we've had it for a little while, our unconscious mind draws conclusions about us needing to keep that,
Mhm.
and that's our ego mind. So our ego mind, thinks we're just a body and we want to be safe. We want to keep the body safe. And but its way of keeping the body safe is to hold on to everything that's painful. So we're actually programmed that way in our mind.
Okay.
However, that part of our mind is way too strong for this point in evolution. And in fact, I know Henry says that it's about 15 to 18 times too strong for this point in evolution. And he's gotten that from, you know, different physicists that he's worked with and interviewed. So this part of our mind is super, super overactive, and it creates these barriers to us fully letting go of things. So what you want to do is figure out, what are those barriers that are not letting you let go of that? Is it that you don't think it's safe to let this go? Or maybe you're blaming yourself for this grief somehow, so you don't think you deserve to let it go. Or maybe it's a part of your identity now.
Mhm.
And now you think it's a part of you, and you don't want to let it go because now you're this other person that grieves. There's lots of possible barriers going on that could prevent you from fully releasing it.
Is that something that people work with you and have, like, sessions, or this book, The Grief Cure that you wrote, do they read the book and that walks them through it? Do they need to work with you personally? How does this really work?
So the grief cure outlines the 4-step process of what you need to do in order to heal. And then I recommend that you work with, a qualified professional who can walk you through that process. Obviously, I have a program called the Grief Cure Program, so which completely takes you through the processes in the book.
Okay.
So working with me is totally an option,
How
and I
long
would
of a process is that? Are you talking like an hour or days or weeks or months? The program you have, how long does it last?
I usually start with a 3-month program with
Okay.
people, and then they can make a decision after that. We can make a decision together about how far they want to go after the 3 months, if they want to continue, if they feel like they're done, you know that sort of thing. But 3 months will give a big jump start to healing from what you're going through.
Mhm. Okay. So you went to his training and you went the first course and you
Mm.
didn't feel like you really had everything you needed in order to heal at that point. So you went back to the second course. And so was that a repeat of the first course or was that a more in-depth course, the second one?
I've actually trained with him many times now.
Oh,
I've
okay.
even been certified by him. So, so yeah, I think I did about 4 trainings with him, and then I did 2 years at his institute.
Okay. So all the trainings are different. So you keep progressing.
So it's really about getting more in depth.
Okay.
Each training I would say is more in depth and more comprehensive because, like, when you're just sort of learning at the beginning, it's sort of the basics, then they add a little bit. And then after you add that, then you go more and more and more in depth. And then you eventually start to develop your own style and be able to figure out how everything works for you. And so what I do is really a fusion of what he does and my own stuff.
And what you do. Okay, very good. Yeah. And that, when you're spirit led, normally that is what happens is spirit leads you to totally different things and you learn to mesh and integrate them. And because spirit, like once I had that accident when I was 5 years old, things just kept coming to me, coming to me, coming to me. But at that age, I didn't even know what it was. I was just playing around with what they gave me, and everything. And, gradually through my life, I put all the pieces together, like all the colors and the grids I would see and everything. I didn't know for decades that those were chakras and the actual energy grids for each chakra and then the energy grid of our body and everything. So it took a long time, or meridians, I would see all these rivers of colors and like dams in the rivers and stuff like that. But I had never heard of a meridian or didn't know what that was as a child and everything. So it makes sense that you just keep building and building and building on that knowledge. And I mean, I'm almost 63 and I still, like, every single day when I do sessions, I just feel like it's such a blessing because I'm still learning, just constantly learning. And so it's always exciting and new. And, you just keep going, like you said, more and more in depth. And so is this something that you are just like passionate about where you just can't wait to get up and like work each day?
Yes, I'm super passionate about it. I actually just even created a new program that I'm super excited about.
Yeah. Are you telling the name of your new program yet, or is it's a secret?
The name of my newest program is called Your Highest Self.
And is that out yet, or is that coming?
Yep, it's official as of yesterday. I got
Oh,
my
wow,
first
congratulations.
my I just completed it on Monday, and the first person signed up yesterday.
Wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Allison, go ahead and tell us again the name of your book. Is the book paperback? Is it hardback? Is it something you put on a Kindle? How do you get the book? And then your website so that people know how to get your book, they know how to contact you.
So, yeah, so you can go to my website and get a free copy of the book, which is thegriefcurebook.com. And you can also reach me from that website. And, if you have a preference to put it on your Kindle, you can certainly go to Amazon and find it on there too. Of course, it's not free on Amazon, but it is free on my website. And it
Oh,
will be in print slightly after the new year, and it'll be in bookstores next year.
oh, wonderful. Give us that link again that was just like, did you have a link that you gave us for the show?
It is thegriefcurebook.com, which is THEGriefcurebook.com. And that's where you can find my book.
Okay, very good. Well, this was really fascinating. Like I said, this is so timely because we are having so many pets and people opting out now. And so, thank you for your time. Thank you for all this great information. And I look forward to, I've read about three-fourths of the book. I'm anxious to read the balance of it and get all the way through it and see what more questions I have. Maybe you'll have to come back and fill us in some more when I have more questions.
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay, is there one tip or one quote or anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think the most important thing is just to let people know that if you're suffering with some type of issue, be it grief, trauma, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, just know that you can heal from that. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't.
Perfect. Yeah, and I believe that too. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to the listeners for taking time out of your day, and be blessed. Thank you for joining me on the Awakened Healer podcast. Did you enjoy the show? If yes, please subscribe and give me 5 on a review, that is, on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review or your comments and let me know what you loved or would love to learn about on future shows. We all need encouragement, including me. Find out more information on my website at spiritledhealinginstitute.com. Be blessed, and remember, if you're good with you and good with God, you're good.